Hello, welcome to another edition of the Review Podcast. This is where we look at the stories that grabbed the reader's attention during the course of the week. We give our readers an in-depth understanding of some of our interesting stories by talking to the reporters who covered the stories. We look at yet another fish road story that was reported by Sakeo Zikela. Lawyer Sisana Manje has confirmed to the Anti-Corruption Commission that his law firm handled millions of dollars that now form part of the fish road investigation.
This story basically just confirms and contradicts the position that the ruling party has been putting out since 2019, denying allegations that it had anything to do with the ongoing or the fish road scandal that is still under investigation by the Anti-Corruption Commission. Some delegates were paid bribes to vote for certain candidates. Of course, we cannot confirm this because people did not bring evidence to us, and some people have been asking us to, as the media, and specifically the Youth League, SWAPO's Youth League, has been asking the media to provide evidence that indeed President Geingoeb's political campaign was funded by the fish road scandal. But the details that Namanje brings up today confirms these allegations.
Yeah, but then do they confirm that the money went, because I've seen on social media the SG has been going out publicly nicely. You are welcome to come and see our accounts and all of that. Does this how is SWAPO's defense, and is their defense credible? Because shouldn't we judge the money that was paid to them with this alleged corrupt money through their account, like their original account?
Yeah, no. I think what you are asking is a relevant question. That if SWAPO indeed received money, where did this money come from, and where was it transferred to, and who were the beneficiaries? But we now know that the ruling party had been using lawyers to now get this money. And Namanje confirmed in his report or his statement that the ruling party asked him to set up a file so that all donations that are made, they don't go directly to the ruling party's account, so that they are not reflected in that account, but to the law firm's account. And the law firms handles the further disbursement of these funds. So if we are now to go and look into SWAPO's books, of course we won't find anything there, but we know that Namanje is saying the funds that were received were paid into my account. These were meant to benefit the ruling party, and further disbursement was made on instructions from the clients, which is the ruling party.
Where do you see it going? I know there are a lot of angles that you guys have been covering this from, but this particular one, how do you see it playing out? Is it?
No. I think maybe, I don't know really, but the case is still in court, and the court still has to pronounce itself on the case, and maybe then we would see SWAPO coming out to say, no, we indeed received money, or we didn't receive money, or the allegations that were made are not or are unfounded. Of course, they've been dismissing the allegations. So we wait maybe for the case to be finalized, and then see whether those who are alleged to have been elected with the assistance of proceeds of corruption would pronounce themselves.
As schools opened on Tuesday, the Namibian reported that 90% of the schools reopened. The Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, Director Sanet Steenkamp, said 90% of the country's 1,920 schools open for face-to-face. Let us take a listen to what more she had to say as schools were opening.
Every teacher, when the children come back to school, irrespective of whether this child was promoted by his or her own mastery of competencies, or whether the child was promoted with condonation, or whether the child repeat. If you have the three set of diverse group of learners in your classroom, coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds, some children had a meal to eat, others don't. So if you look at all that and the diverse groups of learners, marginalized learners from more advanced and functional families, every teacher will make a diagnostic assessment.
And as well, we look at the story of some Tunaco shareholders who were allegedly shocked to learn that President Hage Gengob's children were co-owners of a fishing company with close ties to political power.
The allegations that are playing out here is that Tunaco is a well politically connected company, and it has been receiving preferential treatment from the former Minister of Fisheries and the current Minister of Fisheries. If you look at the stories that the Namibian has published in 2014, 2015, 16, 17, and 18, and you look at Tunaco mainly during that time, before 2014, was partly owned by Spanish people or Spanish owners, and before that it was owned by South African owners. So in 2014, what happened is that the former Minister of Fisheries, Bernard Esau, who is now in prison, actually apparently pushed for the Namibianization of Tunaco.
Namibianization.
Yeah, Namibianization of Tunaco.
Cute word, eh?
Yeah, it's a term that was coined by these people. So and Tunaco, from then, there was a company called Namsov Enterprise. Namsov Enterprise normally used to receive more quotas than any other company because it had employed a lot of people, and it was also a well-functioning company that was run or owned by Bidvest. So from 2014, when the Fisheries Act was changed, the former minister took quotas from Namsov and gave those quotas, some of those quotas to Tunaco and some of those quotas to briefcase companies. Yeah, and this led to the collapse of Namsov, which has now been acquired by Tunaco. So the bone of contention with this story is that people are complaining about the preferential treatment that Tunaco receives because of its political or of its proximity to power, because this company is a company of politicians that are well placed and well connected to the president. This basically shows how those who are well connected, those who are in power, have positioned themselves to benefit from Namibia's marine resources without doing actually anything. Yeah.
You see, I say that because I want to put this in this way. Let's just be in a position of the president. There's fish rot. One would just roughly say that the media is constantly trying to pin him or paint him or just link him, whatever sort of, because I went through this story and I was just checking, and the style of writing and the way the things were making sense, it was in a form that it was driven in a way that it should really be linked to fish rot, because these are fishing companies, and we all know what happened. So is this just a sort of a coincidence or just...
No, it's not a coincidence. And I want to correct you, Enoch, that the media is not trying to pin the president down or let's say link him to the fish rot scandal. But what the people who are players in the fish rot scandal are the one linking the president to the fish rot, and they are the one actually mentioning the president's name. What we are doing as reporters, we are just reporting on what happened and what the information at our disposal. So what the issue is that Namsov and the collapse of Namsov and the propping up of Tunaco cannot be divorced from the fish rot scandal, because Namsov, one need to understand that Namsov then was active, and it had vessels and it had basically all the facilities that a fishing company is required to have to operate in Namibia's fishing industry. So what Tunaco did is that, because these Namibians that went into Tunaco, they didn't have vessels, but some of them they are claiming that they bought shares in Tunaco. Tunaco had fishing vessels, it had factories, and it had all these other things. And what the minister did, the former minister did in 2014, is that they brought up new regulations, or let's say requirements, for one to gain fishing rights and fishing quotas. So that include you owning or having access to a vessel, and you owning or having access to a processing factory. So Tunaco then had all these other things. And what they did is that they made sure that all these other smaller companies that were given quotas and given shares, or not shares, but given quotas and given fishing rights, had to buy shares now from Tunaco, and they bring all the quotas or the share of their quotas that they got from the government into a pool, into a Tunaco pool, into a Tunaco joint venture, and then Tunaco goes into the sea, take the fish, bring them to the factory. But they did nothing. They just brought the quota that they got. So what the allegation is that now these companies that are now part of Tunaco are now being favored by the former minister. We're now being favored because they are linked to politicians. They are linked to people in power. They are linked to people who actually have influence in the allocation of fishing quotas and fishing rights. So, and if you look at that list of beneficiaries, or let's say list of shareholders, it's well-known people, it's prominent people who are benefiting from this.
Yeah, I also saw a shareholder called the Namibian former Robben Island political prisoner.
Yeah.
What is that? Like,
yeah, that is, you see, that is one of the complaints that people are having. That if we have the president's daughters are in Tunaco, the former president's daughters are in Tunaco, the wife of the vice president is in Tunaco, the former Robben Island prisoners are in Tunaco. Could it be a coincidence that all these people just bought these shares
on the basis of comrademanship? Or
no, all these people just bought shares without knowing that this company would actually be favored to get quotas, and they actually stood a chance to make money from this. It won't be a coincidence.
Yeah, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to relieve you so you can go and dig up more stories. Thank you very much, Saki.
Thank you for having me, Enoke.
All right. Married at the age of 2. Yes. We speak to Enoke Kaumba today with regards to the story that she covered, where children are married at the earliest as the age of 2. Enoke Kaumba will be sharing more details on that story as well. What challenge did you face when you were covering this story?
The only challenge I might have faced is just network coverage issue. Aside from that, everything went smoothly because we're speaking the same language. I mean, I'm from Kunene, was doing the story in Kunene. So that also developed trust among each other, like among me and the people I was interviewing. That's why they were able to let me see their 4-year-old daughter that got married at the age of 2.
Okay, so maybe what does the Namibian law say about child marriage, and is it being addressed to the Ovahimba people?
Child marriage is illegal in Namibia, and the Ovahimba people are being told about this issue. There's a unit called Women and Child Protection Unit, subdivision in Opuo, that has monthly campaigns going into Himba villages, like in the whole region, going into villages, teaching people about domestic violence, child marriage being illegal, and all these practices that the government has prohibited. So yes, these people are being taught about this and that they are illegal.
This story really was an interesting one. The Google grant funded this one. But maybe as Namibians, what can we learn from this story, Mercy?
What Namibians can learn from this story is that, yes, child marriage is bad. Because look at this girl that got married at the age of 2. She's moving in with her husband at the age of 6. And yes, she's not going to have any relationship with her husband yet until she gets her first period. But then her educational journey is to be determined by her husband. The mother do not have a say, or the mother cannot have a say whether the child should be sent to school or not. And that is not a good thing. So that's what puts child marriage at a very, very bad place. Not only because of that, but Namibians can learn that sometimes these children, these small children that are getting married at the smaller age, they are not sent to school because their husbands refuse to send them to school. It's not because they do not want school. It's because they've been married off. So it is up to the husband to decide what he finds fit or finds best for his young bride.
The station is overcrowded. Even the cockroaches don't have a place to stay anymore. You are laughing.
Even the cockroaches don't have a place to stay. Trial-awaiting inmates at the Wanaheda police station's holding cells have raised concerns over what they call deplorable conditions in the cells with no proper sanitation facilities. But the question is, how did they manage to get a cell phone in the cells? How is this story now being addressed? We speak to Alana Chikong, one of the reporters who reported on this story.
Well, what the inmates have told us, and this is not new information, is that within the system, within the holding cells, there are what they describe as corrupt police officers. So they get the phones, they have means through which they get the phones through these officers. We don't at this point in time necessarily know what the exchange is for them to procure something like this. However, we do know that it's something that happens consistently. It's not the first time that it's happened, likely will not be the last time that it happens. But what it puts the public into contact with is being able to see the state of the holding cells. A lot of times we don't have access to these spaces. As journalists, we generally are not allowed to go in there, or if we want to go in there, arrangements are made for our visit, and we don't necessarily get to see the real side of things. So for the inmates to get a cell phone is something, as they've told us, that happens through the police officers themselves. What the intention for that is unknown, and what the exchange for that is unknown.
So now what does this now mean? What are the police saying about this?
Well, in an instance like this, we keep the identity of the inmates who contact us. We keep that confidential because, of course, there's fear of what the repercussion for a specific named inmate would be in the event that, they are identified. So we do not give the names of the inmates. That way, it protects the person who's coming forward with this information. In terms of the officials, of course, the officials, they do say that, the state of our prisons is not the best. We know that. We have known that. A lot of times it's a matter of lack of funding. So the maintenance of these spaces is very difficult for the department to keep up with. In terms of the inmates themselves, I think wanting to share that information comes from a place of frustration. There seemingly seems to be no due process in terms of reporting, say that a toilet is broken, or that they're being fed in a room that is filled with garbage, as this one inmate relayed to us. So I think it's difficult at this stage in time to know what exactly the relevant officers are going to do. But the power of telling a story is that once that information is out there, somebody has to do something.
All right, somebody has to do something. And then you mentioned story. Speaking of story, so now looking at this now, where do you see this? What are the possible developments that can happen in this story?
Well, we would hope that the head of department, the police chiefs and so, the prison chiefs and so, would be able to now see, this information is out there, go do an assessment, and then follow up with us, because the public will want to know what is going to be done. For an inmate to allege that they're only being fed one meal a day is a serious allegation, because that essentially means that they're being starved, and that in any event is a human rights violation. I mean, the ombudsman has in the past said that, upon visiting these prisons himself or his staff, they have noted various human rights violations happening. And it's a matter of now holding those officers accountable to say, okay, now that you've seen it, what is going to be done. I think a great follow-up to this would likely be that angle of it as well. What is actually going to be done? Now that this information is public, it cannot be done in secrecy. It cannot be done in the dark. When things are done, what is going to be done needs to be shared with the public.
All right, just to finalize, did we get any comment from the ombudsman on this story? What is he saying?
For this specific story, we did not get a direct comment from the ombudsman. However, in 2019, in an annual report, the ombudsman painted a picture of a very filthy and deplorable police holding cells, the ones that him and his team visited. And at the time, he said that, they were also informed of those violations in human rights, amongst other concerns. So the matter here is that this isn't something new. It's just a matter of the information coming to us once again and us having to ask those questions once again. What is being done? What is going to be done?
And that's it for this week's weekly review. Be on the lookout again next week for yet another review podcast on the stories that got our readers hooked. I am Enoke. Until next week, it's bye-bye.